name is Jaye. My original drag name was Jaylicious, which I kind of built out of a love for 90s and early 2000s music culture. And I mean, I always liked Licious because of D-Light was delicious, and since my name started with a J, I did an apostrophe after the J and then just added Licious after it. I went on to find, working in Atlanta, that there were other Liciouses that were actually kind of a drag lineage. Bubba Delicious being the most renowned of the Atlanta Liciouses. And I don't know, that was kind of it. Like, I thought it was kind of a cool thing, and I didn't want a girly name because I wasn't really striving to be girly. So it just worked, for me at least.
What made you want to be a drag queen originally?
I don't know, it was just fun. I have a theater background, so being able to explore different characters with a creative start really interested me, and then taking the creativity and actually doing a gender play or gender exploration with it just really opened up the door to a lot of other characters. I mean, traditionally actors would play both male and female parts, and that really stopped outside of traditional theater. It just doesn't happen. But I mean, still places like Harvard has a figgy pudding club or something up there. It's like a drama department where everybody's a guy and they play all the roles. So you get both male and female roles played by male actors.
I was gonna say, how did your parents react to the
my mom was
you?
actually okay with it. She knew I had a theater background and didn't really care too much, and I mean, it's not something that's hurting anybody, so I mean, I think that's parents' biggest fear is like, oh my god, you're doing something that's gonna hurt you or somebody else. And I mean, drag is uncomfortable, but I mean, you're not causing yourself physical pain, and I think if I ever went to her and said, hey, I want to get facial work done, then that would freak her out.
Okay, how do you feel gay men perceive drag culture today as opposed to when you first started? Because you were doing it for like 15 years, you said?
Yeah, so the first time I went out in drag, like put on head-to-toe drag and went out, was in 1995? 94, 95? Probably 95. And, I mean, at that point, I think that social media really didn't exist. Everybody was still kind of in closet culture. So going out to see a show and seeing people who were out there really putting themselves out there was something that was really celebrated. So you were very much a superhero at that point. I mean, and at the same time, I think that there's a lot of people who really thought at that point you were doing drag because you wanted to be a woman. It's a kind of double-edged sword on that, but I still think it was something that was kind of celebrated. I mean, Wigstock was started up and was going on, and that was a huge drag event. So yeah, I mean, I think people were kind of a little bit more, not necessarily okay with it, but they were just like, oh, it's drag queen, yay, cool, awesome, I'm gonna be your friend. And now, I mean, social media is what it is. You don't really have to go out in clubs anymore to meet people, and things are just so widespread that I mean, in a lot of ways I think that drag is diluted, often diluted as well, but it's just everywhere, and people see it, and people can make judgments about who you are and what you are without knowing anything about who you are or what you are, based on an Instagram picture or a tweet. And I think that's really affected things.
What is the craziest experience you've had in drag?
I was finishing a number and I walked out to not have to navigate the long, narrow hallway of the bar.
Oh yeah.
And so I walked out of the bar, and granted, camp drag, booger drag, I shoved a handful of $1 bills down my cleavage, and started to walk around the building. And the show was all charity, so you don't really think so much about what you're doing with obvious amounts of money because it's not yours to keep. So like handing it off to somebody who's gonna take it and count it, or shoving it down your top as you're walking down the street of Atlanta, you just doesn't really register. So these two guys saw me do it. We locked eyes when I did it, and they proceeded to follow me around the building. And like, I think in most other parts of Atlanta, in most other times of my life, I probably would have been a little bit concerned, but because I'm 6 feet tall and I was wearing 8-inch heels and a big wig and a bustier and fishnets, I just stopped and turned around and I'm like, what? Like, what are you gonna do? What do you want? And they're just like, oh, no problem, no problem, no problem. And they just turned around and ran. And I'm like, wow, like, I think that's one thing that drag kind of shows you is if you pay attention, you can get a lot of strength through the process. And in a lot of ways, drag is a camouflage or suit of armor. Like, you transform yourself to the farthest degree that you're not really yourself anymore. And I mean, it's very easy to get sloppy and just hide in that and not really address any of your underlying psyche concerns and problems. But if you use that to kind of work through them, I mean, it can really help you move on and get beyond that fearful or self-conscious inner person that you've had for so long. And I mean, personally for me, like, I had always grown up being the like unattractive chubby little kid, and you get to camouflage basically your entire body by doing drag, and you become popular and desirable and attractive, and it gives you the strength to make those changes in your personal life. And then you physically transform your real self into that sort of strong, confident, attractive person. And it's a great thing. But I mean, I do think a lot of people just get lost in it and hide in it and never address their problems and end up being these very fearful people out of drag. And it gets to the point where it often shows up in your drag persona, and just fear and not hatred, but just resentment comes out. So I don't know. Drag can be a good thing. I think everyone should do drag at least once. Twice. First time is never good. The first time will humble you, and the second time will it will make you a man.